Star Wars Starfighter, the official game of the movie. That movie, of course, being The Phantom Menace. The very existence of this game was a bit of a curiosity to me. Lucasarts already had two developers pumping out Star Wars space sims for them at the time. Totally Games with their simulation-heavy X-Wing series for PCs, and Factor 5 with their arcadey, score attack-focused Rogue Squadron series on consoles. But then it occurred to me, the Rogue Squadron series was exclusive to one console. The wrong console. Aha! There's plenty of room for a game like this on the PS2. Okay, I don't know for sure that's the reason, but come on, that's the reason. But now that we have easy access to all of these games thanks to emulation, you might still find yourself wondering, what does Starfighter have to offer compared to its more well-known brethren? We should probably start by figuring out what kind of game we're dealing with here. If we set X-Wing and Rogue Squadron as the two extremes of a continuum from sim to arcade, where does Starfighter fit in? Well, the answer might surprise you. Star Wars Starfighter chronicles the exploits of three original characters in the events leading up to and concurrent with The Phantom Menace. We start the game off with Rhys Dallows, rookie pilot for the Naboo Royal Space Fighter Corps. That's a mouthful. Learning how to fly a Naboo N1 starfighter from his flight instructor Asara Till, in a setup reminiscent of Rogue Squadron's take on Beggar's Canyon, giving us a chance to check out the flight model. And it's looking pretty close to the Rogue Squadron end of the spectrum so far. Your airspeed seems pretty low, making it fairly easy to avoid crashes for the most part, and the consequences if you do are pretty mild in most cases. There's also no kind of power management or even limitations of any kind, meaning there's nothing stopping you from just shooting your lasers forever if you want to. It feels good to control though, and it's fun enough to fly and shoot things. Each of the three playable ships sports a unique secondary weapon. In the Naboo Starfighter's case, it has proton torpedoes, which pack a large punch and almost always hit their target, but need time to lock on and can't be replenished mid-mission. Pretty much what you'd expect. In the next mission, Rhys, fresh out of flight school, is for some reason trusted to protect Queen Amidala as she flies to meet the Trade Federation for negotiations, which turns out to be a trap. Big surprise. At least they brought Asara with them. The pair manage to buy Amidala enough time to hyperspace out, but before they can join her, they're ambushed by mercenaries who kill Asara and disable Rhys's ship, leaving him to be rescued by a passerby. We're then introduced to Vanna Sage, mercenary for hire, helping the Trade Federation test their Scarab fighters in a live fire exercise, until her astromech intercepts a transmission revealing their plans to invade Naboo, at which point they turn on her. Her ship, the Guardian Mantis, has an interesting gimmick. The secondary fire button shoots these tracking dart things. Once you've attached one to a target, your primary fire projectiles will home in on it. I wonder where they got that idea from. It's useful, but surprisingly unintuitive and cumbersome thanks to a certain quirk. If you stick a dart in every ship in a group, you can tear through them in satisfyingly quick succession, but annoyingly, even if you've stuck something, the homing won't kick in unless that ship is also your current target. So if your target happens to switch to something that hasn't been stuck, that just messes everything up. It's a cool idea that maybe could have done with another pass in the implementation phase. Vanna survives the attack and returns to her sick-ass improvised home made out of a derelict capital ship that I wish we'd get to see way more of, only to be cornered by Nim, space pirate captain extraordinaire, and our final playable character, who came to kill her and recover his ship, a bomber-like craft known as the Havoc, which she apparently took from him after sending him to prison. She manages to convince him to leave her alive by tipping him off about the Naboo invasion, and thus freighters full of military equipment to plunder. The Havoc is easily the most capable ship. In addition to the usual blasters, it's got a free-aiming turret that automatically shoots at any hostiles nearby, and dumbfire energy bombs for larger targets, which slowly regenerate unlike the N1's torpedoes. In planetary missions, the bombs are affected by gravity, making them act like traditional airdropped bombs, which see a lot of use against targets like these tanks. So that's the setup. The three characters set off on their respective journeys and through various machinations end up together and join forces to fight against the Trade Federation on and around Naboo. And the rest, as they say, is history. Well, I say various, but it's more like one machination each. When playing the first couple levels, which basically consist of pure dogfighting against wave after wave of enemy ships, I was honestly pretty bored. I understand that it's good practice to ease the player into things before introducing a bunch of objectives and gimmicks, but this goes on for a little too long and the core combat can't handle the load. But if you do get past these initial doldrums, the mission design starts to get interesting. There's a pretty good amount of variety. One mission has you looking for weak spots in the crossfire of some extremely deadly turrets while bombing a Trade Federation factory. Another has you returning to the canyon setting from the tutorial so you can race ahead of a friendly ship that has to fly through it, clearing out any threats before it reaches them. The most elaborate escort and base defense missions have you defending the target from several different kinds of threats on multiple fronts, forcing you to make decisions about what to prioritize while also maintaining your own safety, which sounds an awful lot like X-Wing, doesn't it? I think the game is at its best during the in-atmosphere missions, which have a much larger catalog of different kinds of enemy types to pull from, alongside the benefit of traditional geometry-based level design to constrain you in interesting ways that aren't possible in open space. But even the levels in vacuum were at least okay once the game got going, with one exception: the final mission. It starts out well enough, with Reese joining in on the assault on the Trade Confederation's flagship over Naboo, but then the leader of the mercenaries who killed Isara shows up, and things take a turn for the worse. I experienced a few difficulty spikes over the course of the game, but the answer was always to just take a step back, think things over, and try a different approach. Or just do it better, stupid. It was never truly frustrating until this guy showed up. He has this attack where he shoots two homing missiles which intercept a point in front of you and then detonate into lingering AoE explosions. The problem is, there is no reliable way to avoid these. I tried all sorts of things. I asked my chat as I was streaming it and they told me to
try spinning, that's a good trick!
But not even that was enough. I even looked into it afterwards, but no. The best thing you can do is try to shoot the missiles down before they get close, but that is extremely difficult and not always possible. And look, I know what's going on here. It took me about 4 hours to finish this game, but if you removed all my failed attempts, it'd be closer to 2. They gotta extend that playtime and prevent those kids from beating it on a rental somehow. The thing that really bothers me is that this isn't a unique problem. The mercenary leader is just the most extreme expression of a fundamental flaw in the combat. There are no coherent defense mechanics. What's a defense mechanic? It's just something you can do to avoid taking damage. In an on-foot action game, you might have a dodge button, a block button, and so on. In flight games, your defense is often simply your ability to move and turn quickly. But in Starfighter, none of the playable craft are fast or maneuverable enough to dodge anything, really. Failing that, they could have at least let us do a barrel roll! Or a loop-de-loop on command or something. Even X-Wing, when all else fails, has the lasers to shields button. If a projectile is headed for your ship and it's not a missile that happens to already be in front of you, you really do have no recourse whatsoever. This doesn't apply to the Merc leader, but enemies that shoot lasers at you follow a recognizable pattern. Their first few shots will miss, but after a certain amount of time, they become accurate. Unnaturally accurate, able to consistently nail you no matter what you're doing, even at extreme ranges. Once they've entered this state, they begin relentlessly pelting you, throwing your aim off in the process, which hampers your ability to return fire. And there really is nothing you can do to avoid their shots at this point. The only thing you can do is leave their aggro range so you can re-engage and hopefully kill them before the aimbot timer ticks down this time, which feels less like engaging in the combat than it does like exploiting the AI. Often, though, I was made to forget about this by the strength of the mission design. I was just far too busy chasing down bombers or dropping my own bombs on tanks to notice or care. It's the space missions in which there's more of a focus on pure dogfighting where the combat comes into focus and just doesn't hold up under scrutiny. That's why the Merc leaders sting so much. If they're going to make it ridiculously hard, they could have at least done it in an interesting way. Oh well. Speaking of the mercenary leader, does it bother anyone else that this guy doesn't have a name? He's Reese's nemesis, the impetus for his journey, then the final boss, and they couldn't even give him a name? Starfighter's story should have been a key differentiator. Instead of the dry, impersonal campaigns of X-Wing or the detached anthology presentation of Rogue Squadron, you get to meet some actual characters and go on a journey with them for a more movie-like experience. Except Mercenary Leader serves as a conveniently representative example of how Starfighter does not do the work to make this happen. By the end of the game, I didn't really feel like I knew these characters or had any more reason to care about their plight than I did when I started. It's a simple matter of screen time. As I said, the game is around 2 hours long if you're good at it. That's enough time for a movie, but in a video game, 90% of that time is going to be spent blasting. Mid-mission chatter is pretty frequent, but most of it is concerned with the mission, naturally, rather than anything that might exhibit character or exposit something interesting. You do get the occasional pre-rendered cutscene depicting our heroes outside of their ships interacting with each other, but if you put all these together, they amount to less than 10 minutes of screen time, which is nowhere near enough. It's a trap I've seen more than one game like this fall into. If you've got a game where you spend all your time flying a spaceship, telling a character-based story is going to be an uphill battle. The only way around it is to let us spend some quality time with those characters outside of the ship where they can talk about something other than the next doodad that needs to be blown up. Way more than 10 minutes. But if we take that constraint as a given, it might have helped to focus on one character instead of 3, which was just wildly overambitious in my estimation. Either way, the story doesn't add to the experience in any meaningful way, sadly. Starfighter is a game that I struggle to sum up in some pithy one-liner because there's nothing about it that stands out enough to grab onto. It has a flight model like Rogue Squadron's, but with disappointingly lackluster core combat in comparison, but it's often saved by strong mission design, which at its best is strongly reminiscent of X-Wing. It's almost like the average of all Star Wars games. Alright, we got there in the end. As for whether you should try it out, it controls well, is easy to pick up and play, and the story comes out to 4 hours long on a bad day, so if it looks at all appealing to you, I say you might as well give it a shot. Just don't be afraid to turn the difficulty down on the final mission if you need to. Hey everyone, this video was an experiment to see if I could take some footage from a stream and make some shorter form content out of it without disrupting the schedule for my next big video too much. It took me about 2.5 work days to write the script and 3 days to record and edit this together. It's nowhere near as in-depth as I'm used to, but hopefully it's still a little bit fun and a little bit informative in a little bite-sized package. Worth it? I don't know, you tell me. As always, a big thank you to my patrons. If you'd like to support the creation of more videos like this, you can join them on my Patreon, where you can also vote on which games I should cover next. If you don't have any money to spare, always remember that liking and subscribing is free. Finally, I'd like to give an extra special thanks to A Hanging Chad, Alarmed Response, Erica Simmons, Isaac Hampton, Jan Vollmer, Jomenthan, Julius BMT Cotere, Justin Talbot, Leafy Jawa, Microwell, Regular Casanova, and Puke Skywalker, formerly 410,757,864,530 gay cops. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.